Hello everyone, so you want to travel to Spain? Well, let me see if I can help you with that. So, Spain's rules do vary a little bit depending on what country you're travelling from and depending on whether you're an EU national or not. So I'm going to try and cover everything for you in this video. But before that, let me just mention a few things. So, please do your own research on top of watching this video, as things are constantly changing as we've seen with Covid-19. This video might have been released yesterday, but the travel rules could have already changed. So please do your own Googling as well. Now I will link everything below, all the important websites that you need. All the websites where I got this information will be linked down below, so I really recommend you check those before you travel. I will try to keep this video updated as much as I can. By doing that, I will put an update in the description below, or I'll also pin a comment below. So make sure you also read the description or the pinned comment, just in case anything has changed. But if I do miss something or I'm a bit slow to it, that's why I recommend you do your own research, because things can always change. Finally, feel free to ask me any questions. You can do this in the comment section below, or you can reach out to me on any of my socials. So, let's get into the video. So what do you need to enter Spain? So Spain just announced their new update this week for the month of April. And unfortunately, nothing has changed from March in terms of travel restrictions. So it seems like the rules are here to stay for at least another month or so. So to start with, no matter what country you're coming from, you must fill in a health control form 48 hours before your arrival. I think you'll be able to complete the first part at any time, but once you get to the last part, it won't let you continue until it is 48 hours until your arrival into Spain. Now, most countries do it by departure, but Spain are doing it by arrival, so you can't complete the form until 48 hours before your arrival. So long as you do it in that window, you're fine. Also, let me know below if you would like me to make a video on how to complete that form. So, this whole process is a lot easier if you're from the EU or if you have family in the EU. So I'm going to cover those in just a minute, but first, let me talk about if you're not an EU citizen, because if you're not an EU citizen, then it doesn't matter what country you're coming from. So if you're not an EU citizen, then you must either be fully vaccinated or have proof of recovery. Now there are a few exemptions and I will link the website below, but let's go into more detail on what you need or what's considered fully vaccinated and what you need for proof of recovery. So, for proof of vaccination first. Now, the vaccination certificate must have been issued by the competent authorities of the country of origin at least 14 days after the date of administration of the final dose of the complete course of vaccination, as long as the final dose of that course of vaccination was no more than 270 days ago. From that time, the certificate must show the administration of a booster vaccination. So basically what that means is, if you received your second dose of the vaccine more than 270 days ago, then you will need the booster. Otherwise, you are considered unvaccinated. If you've recently just received your second dose, just make sure 14 days has passed. But basically, what this is saying is if you haven't had your booster, then your second dose of the vaccine must be within the window of between 14 and 270 days. If it's outside of either of those, then you are considered unvaccinated and will not be able to travel to Spain. If you've had the booster, there is no expiry date, you are considered fully vaccinated. I believe the vaccine must be approved by the EMA or the WHO. And that pretty much covers the vaccine rules. So if you wanted to use proof of recovery, the recovery certificate must be issued by the competent authority or a medical service at least 11 days after the first positive NAAT, which is PCR, TMA, LAMP and similar, or rapid antigen detection test. The certificate shall be valid for 180 days from the date of the first positive diagnostic test result. So basically, if you want to use proof of recovery, the window is between 11 and 180 days since you tested positive. So you must be in that window to be able to use proof of recovery. Also, one thing to note on this, if you did test positive with a rapid antigen test, it must have been performed by qualified personnel. So what that means basically is it can't be a self-test. So I recommend if you do test positive on an antigen test, then you do go and get a follow-up PCR test, especially as these are more widely accepted by more countries. Now for those aged 12 to 17, they do not require a vaccine. They are able to present a negative NAAT test taken within 72 hours prior to arrival in Spain. So an NAAT test is like a PCR, a TMA, or a LAMP test. Obviously, the most popular one and the most well-known of these is the PCR test, so it's probably easier to take a PCR test. Make sure that you do take it within the time limit. It's 72 hours before arrival. So it's not departure. Spain do it by arrival. I do recommend that you try and take this as early as possible because PCR tests do take longer to come through. Most take like 12 or 24 hours, but some can take even longer, like 36, 48 hours, some even 72 hours. Those who are under 12 don't require anything. They are exempt, so they don't need to be vaccinated. They don't need a test. They can just enter. So that should cover everything if you're a non-EU citizen. Now, if you are from the EU, the first thing you're going to want to check is the at-risk countries list. So this here in front of me is the current list. This current list was the current list on the 31st of March. So I definitely recommend you recheck this list because it could be out of date when you're watching this. I will put the link below where you can find the list of at-risk countries. So if the country you're coming from is not on this list, if you can't see the name of the country you're coming from on this list, then you don't need anything to enter. But if the country you're travelling from is on this list and you are an EU citizen, then you will have to have one of these three things. You will either need proof of vaccination, or proof of recovery, or a negative COVID test. So the proof of vaccination rules are the same as those above. I recommend you listen to those for more in detail, but briefly, you must have received your second dose between 14 and 270 days ago, unless you've had the booster. If you've had the booster, then the dates don't matter, so just make sure if you haven't had the booster that you're in the window of the 14 to 270 days, and then obviously if you had your booster, there's no expiry date, that's fine. If you're going to use proof of recovery, it must either be an NAAT test or a rapid antigen test, and you must have tested positive within 11 to 180 days ago. If you did take a rapid test and tested positive, it must have been taken in person with medical personnel. So this basically means it cannot be a self-test. And finally, if you're going to go down the negative COVID test route, then it must either be an NAAT test taken within 72 hours prior to arrival, or you can take an antigen test within 24 hours prior to arrival. So whatever test you choose to take, make sure you are in that window. Remember, it says arrival. Spain do it by arrival, not departure, so make sure you are in that time frame. So NAAT tests are typically PCR tests, just in case you are confused by that. But like I said, just make sure you're in the time frame, and then you're going to have to bring that certificate with you to show proof that you are negative. So if you're a non-EU citizen, then you must be fully vaccinated, or you must have proof of recovery. If you are an EU citizen, then you must have either proof of vaccination, proof of recovery, or you provide a negative COVID test. So I hope that covers everything that you need to be able to travel to Spain. If this video helped, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like, and if you could subscribe. Also, you can follow all of my socials here. They will also be linked below. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and happy travelling!